Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beacons of Light. Just be it. There's nothing to it. It's the only way of being your truest self in this 21st century and beyond. You came here to live your best life, but you must think for yourself. You must change your mindset, change your behaviors. You can heal yourself then, and your situations will change. Propaganda. How propaganda works. How we have been played and brainwashed because of it. Today, I will be quoting from this book, Brainwashed by Tom Burrell. Challenging the myth of Black inferiority. Do you think Black people, so-called Black people, are inferior to so-called white people? I'll let you ponder that question for 5 seconds. Be honest with yourself. If you think that so-called Black people are inferior to so-called white people, I'm not going to punch you in the face if you say yes, and I'm not going to commend you if you say no. That's your frame of thought or reasoning. In my book, in my view, no human being is superior to anyone else. Now, propaganda is a very, very powerful tool that the media uses to condition, brainwash, and keep certain demographics in sunken spheres, and even those that they want to elevate in fear-mongering. Reading from this book, Brainwashed, challenging the myth of Black inferiority. I'm not going to take all of your time. I'm just going to read from this book because it's very important. There are many propaganda principles, but here are a few that I believe were of prime importance in the 18th century Black inferiority marketing strategy. These principles, now listen to this, these principles were employed throughout the colonial period of the late 1700s, Reconstruction in the late 1800s, the 20th century civil rights movement, and still survive in modern times. Which means the propaganda machine is constantly improving itself. Okay? That's why I've told you time and time again, never underestimate the power of human desires. Because human desires have what? Erected empires and civilizations and also brought them down to their ruins. The big lie. The repeated and consistent articulation of a partial, distorted, or manufactured truth. Evidence. Colonial era. Black slaves. This is the evidence of the big lie. Black slaves are subhuman beasts. Now, let me just emphasize something. Every people from all walks of life, in some part of their history, or world history, if I am to use that instead of separate histories, but in world history as we know, or can intellectually analyze, all peoples from all walks of life have been through some form of servitude or slavery, have been through some form of servitude or slavery, either deliberately, unknowingly, and so on and so forth. Reconstruction era, emancipated Blacks are still inferior to whites. That's why I asked you that question, if you think Whatever your question is, keep it to yourself, or you can comment below. Civil rights era. Blacks are angry, dangerous, unemployable, and addicted to welfare. Remind you, let me just say one clear statement here. Welfare was imposed on us after the government of the United States colluded with shadow actors of manipulation and destruction agents to get rid of the black male, the father figure in the home, and they became the father figure, giving the women now who are who have children that are fatherless and no husband, the system became the significant other that that woman now is lacking or was lacking at that time. Modern era. Low-income blacks are innate failures, responsible for their own moral and economic decline. That's not true. There's so many evidence of this American construct that has sucked the financial wealth out of the black community and constrained so many avenues where black ingenious or ingenuity could have thrived had they been given the tools needed for their success to continue in the fashion that they wanted it to look like. Appeal to fear is the next one. The purposeful effort to instill apprehension and panic. Colonial era. Changing the status of black slaves will threaten our livelihood and destroy our way of life. This is the masters who owned slaves at that time. They felt threatened that if those who were enslaved, so-called black people, if they were given an opportunity to change their status, they will rise up and revenge or form partnerships with each other and compete with then the slave masters. They didn't want that. Reconstruction era. Emancipated blacks will seek revenge and rape white women because they were afraid. They were doing this to black families. They didn't want a retaliation. I just said that. Civil rights era. Blacks are revolutionary communists. They are moving too fast and want too much at once. Black power really means race war. How dare you? Moving on. Modern era. Low-income blacks are violent and prone to crime. When you psychologically enslave somebody for hundreds of years, what do you expect their reactions or behaviors to look like? That's why when I started this video, I said change your mindset, change your behaviors, heal yourself, and your situation shall change. Irrespective of what they're saying, irrespective of the beliefs, irrespective of how people perceive you, people are going to stereotype you regardless of who you claim to be. But you must know thyself, and you must exercise your human rights so that no one infringe upon you their beliefs of who and why and where you should be. Modern era. Low-income blacks are low-income blacks are violent and prone to crime. They threaten property values and must be contained or incarcerated. This is a belief. People believe this, and they have lawyers to back it up and laws to keep this mental belief and practice going on for eternity. Next, appeal to prejudice. Attaching a value or moral label to flawed but well-established perceptions. Now listen, I like how he differentiate the different viewpoints that are false, by the way, and then he keeps the same historical elements: colonial era, Reconstruction era, civil rights era, and then the modern era, which is in these times that we're in. Colonial era. Whites are physically, mentally, and morally superior to blacks. Remember, in the beginning of this video, I asked the question, do you think that blacks are inferior to so-called whites? It's a very important question to ask yourself, because if you are considering yourself black, I don't believe there's black or white, but just for the sake of this video, if you consider yourself black, do you see yourself inferior to a white person? Reconstruction era. Blacks want and need to be subjugated. They cannot function in a free society. This is very important to remember. All these points that I am emphasizing, I am repeating from this book, Brainwashed, Challenging the Myth of Black Inferiority by Tom Burrell. All I am stating here is facts that has been researched and evidence if you take a closer look. Moving on. Civil rights era. Whites have earned economic and social privilege through hard work, discipline, high morals, and family values. That's a lie. They did it on the backs of black folks. Remember, they had free labor for 400 plus years. And when they started to pay the black workers, they paid them peanuts. So that even made them, even when they so-called emancipated the black folks, they still paid them peanuts. So from free labor to cheap labor, it does not make much difference. Modern era. Under the appeal to prejudice, social and economic woes are attributed solely to irresponsible black parenting, crime cuddling communities, and a sense of perceived victimization. All lies. A people's behavior or mental state can only be derived from causations of a system that is prejudiced, biased, and only caters to the concepts, constructs, feelings, opinions, and ideologies of the ruling class. Facts. Stereotyping. Exaggerating established perceptions of physical or cultural traits, attaching negative attributes to an entire group. Then he gives us he follows the same methods. Colonial era. During the colonial era, black slaves are uncivilized, childlike, and content with bondage. No one is content with being enslaved or imprisoned. When someone feels hopeless, they succumb naturally, but they don't choose to be there. Reconstruction era. Emancipated blacks are buffoons, lazy, illiterate, and rapists. But these are propagandas, and people believe these things today. Civil rights era. Blacks are angry, impatient, and murderers. Modern era. Low-income blacks are drug addicted, criminal, oversexed, dependent on government assistance, and irresponsible. Give me a break. It's not true. So-called black people's condition in these United States are conditions that we can trace back to slavery. Behaviors, mental states of some so-called black people are remnants of psychological trauma from slavery. If I told you right now that white folks are more involved in government assistance and welfare, you would not believe me, because the only people they show you are the black folks. Facts. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. I don't want to make this about race per se, but you cannot deny that race is part of our experience, and we need to have conversations about it, because the propaganda is effective when those who run the programs and the broadcasts have the upper hand. And that's why I'm calling on the African brothers and sisters, so-called black people, to change the narrative so that we can promote and produce good media that reflects us in a positive sense opposed to a negative sense. On to the next one. Beacons of light. Just be it. There's nothing to it. If you change your mind, change your behaviors, heal yourself, you can change your situations. On to the next one. Peace and always love. Go out and be great, because greatness is where? Inside of you as well as inside of me. And we shall arise, because there's nothing to it. We are becoming our greatest versions. We are rising above all the challenges and nuances that life throws at us, because we are Christ conscious, not waiting for saviors. We are becoming that savior that we seek. All right, I gotta go. Thank you for watching the video to the end. Please like, share, and subscribe, comment below. Hit the notification bell so you can get more videos. That's how you support this channel. All right, bye now.